Hello viewers and welcome back to our Let's Play of Two End All Wars. I'm your host, Bibiju Chu, and welcome to episode 2 of our Let's Play series. Starting off the series, I have a few just announcements. First and foremost, as some of you guys may have realized by the time and date here, I've decided to restart the campaign in the sense that we're back on turn number 2, technically turn number 1, immediately after picking the war plans. This is because I wanted to really give the community and people who may be watching this and getting introduced to the Ageod engine and games a solid experience as to how this campaign progresses. As some of you guys may know, I pre-record episodes in the sense that I break, like, say, a 2-hour play session into a few episodes and breaks, and at the end of it, I didn't really think we made, say, a ton of progress, and at the same time, we didn't really talk a lot about, say, the major considerations inside this campaign. So, with that said, I've decided to change up my game plan here and restart the campaign. With these grand strategy titles, of course, you do need a few playthroughs to, or rather, play attempts to get a good idea of the factors involved and the things like that. So, we've already gone over the basics of the game and a lot of, say, the overarching considerations, so we don't need to talk about those this time. I've tried to play through it so that the game would generate the exact same course of events as in our previous episodes, but that isn't happening, so we'll just go with this. There's a lot of different possibilities with the different deployments and different war plans, just given the fact that you have, four nations with 4 war plans each. There. So, starting off the game, the AI has decided on a few war plans. We'll check those out briefly. The Russians this time have decided to go with the Grand Duke war plan, and one of the things that I want to note this time around is I will be checking some of the penalties and some of the effects of these war plans as well, because these are fairly important. And in general, a big thing inside this episode, and I guess the one following forwards, is some of the specific considerations that, or rather our plans in general for what we intend to do and what we're going to try to do here, as those will be very important as opposed to, say, something that's just wishy-washy, really. So the Russians have gone with this one. Russia launches an early offensive against Germany to technically relieve France, though inside our game that is, of course, very different. So that is that. They have a few different penalties and things over here. These ones won't be, say, too terribly important, mainly because they don't affect us as much. It just determines their initial goal. The French are going with Plan 17 again, so they'll try to take an immediate offensive, so that is their thing. But I wanted to focus on our 2 plans here because, in the end, there are a few considerations here that we need to talk about. Mostly, it's inside this penalties section here for the Koenig plan and the Mok plan there. One of the things is that you see here that these 2 plans have a national morale penalty modifier of sorts, where it's minus 10 Central Powers morale, and in addition it'll do some stuff regarding the Eastern Ententes morale as well. So we want to keep in mind some of these things, mostly because this will affect how this war develops and how we fight Russia, or rather the length of the war in Russia. And likewise, the German war plan does the same thing, though to the west rather than the east. So why is this important? Why is national morale important? Well, first and foremost, national morale is the thing determined right here. It is effectively, it's really just exactly what it says. It's the enthusiasm for the war inside your country. If this goes past a certain point, you automatically win the game, irregardless of the positions you're in, I believe. And secondly, if it goes below a certain level, you will automatically lose. One of the things that the game does here is that depending on depending on how low that national morale drops, eventually rebel, or rather just in general dissident forces will build up inside a country, and that as that grows, the nations present here will have a higher chance in bailing out from the war. So, currently inside this game, playthrough, Great Britain's automatically inside. We're allied with France, so there's not too much we can do there. What I've decided to do is that I've decided to ally ourselves with Ottoman Empire, get them into the war real fast, reinforce them with Bulgaria, hopefully next year in 2015 or 1915. I've decided to go with, I believe we're not sending a diplomat to Romania, but they are going to do it. Bulgaria, I believe, is the strongest country inside the area there, so it makes sense for us to go to it, seeing as how we already have a favorable disposition there, and I'm going to go with Switzerland just in the event that we need to call them in to, say, a war with France there. So that is just some of the stuff about diplomacy. Going back to what I was saying about the whole national morale system and all. Starting off with these two plans, as you may have noticed there, we automatically give, say, the Eastern and Western alliance members an extra 10 points of morale, as opposed to rather enacting a penalty on ourselves for 10 points of that. With the Russians, as soon as they drop down to 75 morale, which would be, I'd say, fairly fast inside the historical campaign, but just due to the balancing decisions that they've made here, this might take, say, some more time. As soon as Russia's morale drops down to right around 75 or so, the monarch of Russia will take over control of the army, and I believe every turn past then, the descent grows faster and faster. And in general, the Tsar in Russia wasn't exactly the most capable leader, to say the least. So that is ultimately the goal of our campaign here, to drop their morale down to that point, and then afterwards to see how fast we can take them out of the war. The thing about that is we can do that in a few different ways. Mostly, the primary three things that we'll consider is, say, advancing onto Petrograd and Moscow, some of the key towns or key cities inside Russia, and provided that we can break through here, because they are fairly heavily defended in the sense that the defenders automatically get a bonus to their troop quality when you try to take these locations. Provided that we can take them, that would be a major hit to the war effort in Russia, obviously. But the second, or the two more likely options, is that we want to strike at these strategic towns once again. Typically, when you capture these, it'll usually hit the enemy morale by right around 1 or 2 national points each. And with that said, it'll be valuable for us to hit a lot of those. Secondly, as you may have noticed during our battles, sometimes it'll say national morale gained or lost there. And with that said, another way to lower national morale would be simply to fight their armies. So the chances are is that we'll try to take a lot of these towns, but then again, Russia is a very big place, and actually, yeah, it's a really big place, and the towns are very spaced far apart. And the other thing is, of course, just destroying their armies. And luckily, this time they've decided to go up against us in East Prussia an area, so this should be, I'd say, easier of a task to do than, say, before. So we've already checked out how these army movements and how these things go, so we'll do this faster now that we've gotten those things out of the way. And what I want to do here is that I want to pin down the Russian 1st and 2nd Army led by these two people here. So we've already seen the Max Hoffman command, or regional decision. And what had happened was that during the war in Russia, the Russians they acquired a whole bunch of radios, and they either just didn't realize that, I mean, if you broadcast on them, anybody could pick them up, and if you don't encode your messages, then people would naturally know what you're doing. And we have a decision card to replicate that, though technically you're supposed to it's part of the historical campaign, so technically you're supposed to use it when the Russians are attacking Prussia. What we're going to do here is we're going to see whether or not we can lure this army, the 2nd Russian army, into Prussian territory to use that to pin them down, because it destroys their cohesion and it locks them into the town, making them a very vulnerable target. So we'll see what we can do here. And in the meantime, in the northern area here, seeing as how the 1st Russian army is present, led by Pavel Rennenkampf once again, we're going to launch an all-out assault onto him, and we're going to see whether or not we can push all the way through these 3 strategic cities into Minsk and area there. So one of the big things about the war and the considerations here is that just simply how we want to manage our troops here. I noticed that as time goes on, the cohesion of our guys it just plummeted. And with that said, we weren't really able to do very much, just because of the fact that the combat power is practically non-existent. One way to think about it is that, I mean, the basis of how strong your units are, of course, based upon manpower, but the main thing is actually the cohesion, which is, if you want to consider it, say like a modifier or a multiplier onto the base units' strengths, of course, there. So those are our two considerations. The main thing is that we also want to enact a rotation system through all of these different army corps and stuff. And what I mean by that is, as the battle goes on, chances are is that I'll just keep a few of these army corps in reserve. I won't move them very much, or rather, I'll move them behind the advancing armies, and I'll switch troopers from the main army to the secondary corps, and I'll likewise just refresh them like that, so that we can have a continuous rolling force, while it's at the same time giving us some rest within our forces there. So, I'm trying to keep this brief. That's what we'll do here up inside Prussia, and likewise over here. And with that said, I think we'll just get this first turn going, and we'll get these advances fired off. So again, we're going to use those two very lovely effects to give the Ottoman Empire a large sum of gold and a large sum of things to make them more likely to join us in a very short amount of that time. And in addition, what I think I'll do going forwards from here is that when we're attacking, I'll use this. We've already seen the posture thing. You put your forces on assault to attack fortifications, attack to take where either fight armies, defensive and passive to of course defend and recover cohesion. But over here we've also seen the sub modifiers of how strong of an attack you want to send off. So for example, probe attack, something fairly weak, or alternatively something like an all-out attack. What I've realized is that inside the early few days of the campaign, or inside World War I in general, quite honestly, it doesn't make any sense to just do anything else apart from an all-out attack, seeing as how the losses are going to be very bad either way. And of course, if you don't capture the tile, or if you don't break through, you're going to suffer lots of losses retreating either way. So we're going to go with that. And another thing is that inside early August and late August, so the first two turns of the campaign, will receive a very large cohesion artificial recovery type of thing every single month, so, or every single turn, at the end of every single turn. So with that said, it doesn't really matter if we say force march our guys forwards. Either way, they'll be at full cohesion. So we'll do that up there. We'll make a few very small plays later on. I hope to defeat Second Army here, and again crush these armies, take these strategic towns, and try to break the morale of Russia like that. Over here in Serbia, we're going to have to, we'll try to play with something similar. Though down here, there's just something with these Austrian troops that just make them either very, very weak or very difficult in using inside Serbia. But we'll see whether or not we can make a few plays and go forwards in taking Belgrade. As soon as we take Belgrade, I think things will go fine going from there. And my plan for this area here is now just to keep a cohesive front, and to gradually push them through, as opposed to sending our big armies to chase down their big armies instead. So we'll get our troops to do these movements for now. That'll be a fairly easy turn, and once I return, we will check out this area, seeing as how it'll take a turn for them to unlock. So that'll be that. Try to keep this fairly fast, though I don't really know whether or not this would be considered a fast turn or not. Don't really know whether or not this is considered a fast turn or not. Okay, so we're back with the war in Russia here. Starting off, we make an assault into Pavel Radonkov's army once more, and we deal massive amounts of damage. So yeah, our troops do have that nice bonus to attacking, and also with that said, we're doing a lot of damage. One of the things that I'm wondering about is just this modifier right here. Sometimes our troops will be fatigued or alternatively exhausted when they enter the battle, and there just seems to be no indicator of what actually makes that show up. And I'll say more about that later on, but for now we'll just advance. Overall, pretty nice battle over here. Yeah, and it especially happens on this front specifically with the Austrians. We can launch an attack here, and as you can see, we take horrendous losses, whereas the Serbians don't really take, say, too much. So we'll have to regroup and go back onto the offensive. But one of the things here is that our troops were at full cohesion, pretty much at full health at the beginning of this engagement. Either way, they drop into that fatigued status very soon during the battle. So either way, I mean, this area here will be tough going. I'm not really sure whether or not it's just because the Serbians also have very large fortifications built here, and evidently, I mean, it's only at 86%, so it's not that great. But yeah, the Austrian troops just don't seem to be able to press forwards all too nicely. So we'll wait. Right, and of course the French are going to make their stab here. And a second battle with Pavel Renenkov over here, taking out almost half his army here. And again, our troops become fatigued and exhausted here. This time it makes more sense, seeing as I mean, it's two major battles of 6 rounds in a few days. So that's that. I think we also take the town here. Okay, so back on turn number 2. So the game's going forwards, and as some of you guys may have noticed during the very last frame of the turn processing there, our armies 1 and 2 here had somewhere right around like half, or not half morale, or not half cohesion, but something fairly low. And as you can see now, they're more or less back at full health, or back at full cohesion, but perhaps not full health, and that's just simply because of that system of giving us an artificial edge and giving us a lot of cohesion just like that. So that's good. We made a nice offensive here, although our armies, of course, are naturally tired as well. Though Pavel Renenkov's troop here is starting to break, so that's really good. So ultimately, I want to push back these armies, and hopefully we'll be able to destroy some of these Russian armies and ultimately send them to recover in the winter, which will give us some respite. So that's one front, and over here, I'm not really sure what we'll do, just given the absurd strength of these Serbian troops. What I'm probably going to do here is I'm probably just going to combine a whole bunch of our units and launch one major offensive, wait a while and launch another one. Now that this French area of the map has been unlocked, we'll commit to a few movements and we'll see what we can do about shoring up the defenses on this line. In the first episode, I mean, as we've seen, there was some action going on this line, and the chances are is that the French aren't going to break through. Now, I believe there is a few scripted events which will be shown inside the messages tab here as the game goes on. For the French player, if the French don't make a successful offensive into Germany, and what will happen is that I believe that'll automatically artificially lower their morale, so that's good. As you can see right here, they launched one not so great attack and their morale automatically drops by 3 points, so things are looking good there. Our morale actually rose by 1 point, so that's definitely not bad. And of course the Eastern Front dropped by 1 point, so that's not too bad. One of the things that I want to do here on the Western Front is that I'm going to change all of these defensive postures with the modifiers on them to hold at all costs, irregardless of casualties, because we cannot risk a breach on this line. And this was something that we didn't do inside the first episode, because if the French break through here, then of course we would be in serious trouble. But If we don't change this, then we would be, yeah, in trouble if they broke through here in either way. Casualties here shouldn't be as bad as the French, so we'll just change all of these to hold at all costs. As you may have noticed, the border here actually isn't a full cohesive line in the sense that there are a few tiles that aren't defended. The game has this patrol slash evasion modifier on these army groups, and essentially what it does is that it stops these very large armies from moving it or making movement into these adjacent tiles harder, or yeah, very hard, as opposed to say impossible. But like, yeah, this area here should be fine for now. Later on, what I want to do is that I want to switch this Alpine Corps, which is of course Mountaineer troops, here instead. And because this is a hilly region, they should have the defensive buff there. So we'll try to, we'll set these forces to do exactly just that, and we'll let them hold for now. Going forwards from there, let's check up on our front and let's see what we can do. So, Army Group 1 managed to push through, and despite suffering some losses, naturally, they've moved into Kavono over here, and they're starting to siege the fortress here. What I want them to do is that I want them to launch an all-out attack, and I want to see whether or not they can perhaps push Pavel Runenkampf's forces further back. And once Army Group 2, or yeah, Army 2 comes over here, I want them to shore up the attack once they arrive on turn number 2, assuming that Pavel Runenkampf's forces aren't eliminated at that time. And in the meantime, here's what I'll do. I'll get the Guard Corps, I'll set them onto the offensive posture, and I'll move them forwards one turn to reinforce our people there. But going from there, I'm going to get the Army Corps here, or a few Army Corps, to launch an offensive, and I want to blitz this fortress in sometime. So I'll get them to launch that. I'll use let's do 4 Army Corps to do this, and likewise switch them onto the all-out attack posture. And I'm going to use some hotkeys here. Shift M is to turn on Forced March. Forced March costs more cohesion to move, and it of course gets your troops to move slightly faster. The main thing about it is that currently we get that artificial cohesion buff towards our troops, so I'm not too terribly worried about that. In terms of our objectives for this region, what I want to do is, of course, capture the road to Minsk is one. Later on, I want to send 8th Army over here to capture Riga. And inside the southern area, inside Poland region, I want to blitz Lodz, Warsaw, and Brest-Litovsk, and the little town over here before winter sets in. So those will be our objectives, and we'll see what we can do over there. In the meantime, the Austrians are maintaining a defensive, so I'll try to rotate my forces where the big Russian armies make their appearance. So we'll do that. Over here we could, in theory, launch a minor offensive, but I don't think it'll be worth our time. And inside this area, we'll just get our troops to get into the fortress, so you can enter the structures just like that, and that should give them a better chance at healing and recuperating their losses. What I think I'll do here to push forwards into the Serbian territory is that I'm going to assemble all of our major armies and into one area, and I'm going to get them to attack simultaneously. In the meantime, I'm going to send a few of these army corps onto the offensive posture. I'm going to send them across, and I want to see whether or not they can capture any land like that. I'm going to get 7th Army Corps here to make a push across the river and hopefully destroy these 2 reserve tiles, and again, putting them on that full movement setting, or all-out attack setting there. Likewise, over here, it's same thing. We're going to enter from the side here, and we'll see what we can do about making an all-out attack once more. So this area will just do its thing there. I can shuttle a few more troops from the back ranks of the Austrians into this area, but honestly, it's going to be tough going inside Serbia either way. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is that, of course, we're going to kick off recruitment here, and we're going to build a mixture of cannons and infantry. What I've noticed so far is that infantry will be actually more important early on here, not exactly as useful as cannons, but they build faster. And the main thing is that I want to shore up the defenses on the west, because eventually the French will mass enough troops, and of course they're recruiting as well, to make a breakthrough through the line. So I'm going to spend the first turn building up massive reserves of infantry, spending out practically all of that cash. So we'll do that, and that will set up the second turn. So yeah, we're moving much faster inside this episode, and we'll just go forwards from there. Alright, well, coming back. So, again, day one. Actually, yeah, so two very nice victories over Pavel Renenkampf's force here, and his army is dissipating very, very fast. It's dropped down to, well, I guess now 52,000 men. And he, as you can see, once your opponent, or once your force is defeated, it goes into the passive posture. And in the passive posture, if you get attacked once again, like such over here, it adds a further defensive penalty. So as you can see, we only lost 3,000 guys there to make a very effective raid on his forces. And would you look at that, a fourth attack, not too successful this time, but either way, we're doing a lot of damage, and we're starting to chew up his army corps. I think last time we destroyed two, or last turn we destroyed two of his minor divisions. Right, so the French are going to make a stab here, and massive losses, 60,000 losses, trying to smash their heads onto this fortress here. Wow, we are really chewing up his, we're really making a lot of attacks here. So 2 more battles overall, his army has shrunk down and almost, yeah, half in size once more. And his troops are now starting to become a lot, rather very exhausted. We're starting to destroy the fortress here, and we're starting to take this area by Cudi Main, is what I think it's called. And this guy makes an appearance once again, Pavel something. So he came up, the Austrians fought him. It's counted as a defeat because I guess we routed where our troops went back. And with that said, it looks like we are lost an entire army corps here. That might not be the case. That might be just because the leader died and says that. But either way, we did a lot of, we caused a lot of losses on him. What I did was that I shimmied the one of the Austrian armies over here because I figured we could make a nice easy push to Lublin after I paused the video. And with that said, I guess we did hit the Russians quite hard here, though it wasn't, say, a crippling blow by any means. And of course our armies had to flee back one tile to just counteract things, or just to do a movement like that. So alright, we'll let the game process, do its thing, and there we go. So let's see what has happened so far. So a lot of national... Well, no, is the game running? Yeah, it still is. Should be. There we go. So, let's see, a lot of... I'm going to read through the messages here because they are quite helpful. You know what, I'll tab through them. A lot of different stuff about tutorials. Yeah, there's a blockade, obviously, with Great Britain and all. I'll talk about... No, I think we've already said a lot about that. Whole bunch of diplomatic stuff happened, and let's see. Not really sure if the blockade is enabled just yet, so that's good. And Paul von Hindenburg, we've seen this happen before. He's taken control of where I think we've seen this happen before. But anyhow, historically, what had happened was that the original commander on the Eastern Front here had a nervous breakdown at the start of the war, and Paul von Hindenburg took command, rather was his replacement, and he's quite a useful guy. He has a lot of useful stats. So that's one thing. Lots of movements have happened. I'm going to check these red tagged battles. I'm going to see whether or not any of them have increased our national morale. Would you look at that? This one over here, the German victory over France, has increased our morale by a whopping 3 points. So that is quite the battle. Let's see, a whole bunch of other minor battles happened. I'm not really sure if this, if the national morale is just say like an integer value, as in like whether or not it's just like whole values, or whether or not these minor battles do affect the national morale, but they just it doesn't appear here because it's rounded down or something along those lines. Ooh, we fought an air battle. Yeah, sometimes the game doesn't mention these here, and they're actually really rare early on during the campaign. But there's that. We have a few biplanes duking it about over here. Let's see. According to this, all of our planes, or all of our plane elements, lived. Though down here it says that we lost 6 planes and they lost 14, so I'm pretty happy with that. A lot of our what you do with the airfields, because I haven't mentioned this just yet, is that you plug these airfields down in location, and passively they'll scout, and in the event that they're fighters later on, they'll just commit to missions around wherever their airfield is. So that's that. Over here, yeah, our troops are fought that battle, so that's good, and overall things happen. Lots of movement orders, and I'm going to check those. Some units get their replacements, and a lot of change in ownership things happen. The Western powers introduced Japan to its alliance, so that might be something worth noting. I'm going to check whether or not any more political options are available, and currently the Ottoman Empire should be joining us very shortly, so that's good. I'm gonna check out how much rebel forces are in Germany. Well, yeah, I guess Germany has a lot of rebel forces at the start of this campaign for whatever reason, but that'll be yeah, just that. And as time as time goes on, the entrenchment levels over here will go up, and what that means is that gradually, to simulate the fact that more advanced trench types, I guess, or techniques for building trenches come forth, the maximum, say, defensive buff from entrenchments goes up over time. So that's what had happened there. Either way, we're doing pretty well despite the large rebel movement in Germany, I guess, seeing as that we started the game with 90 morale. Now it's almost back to what it would be regularly. So 97, that's quite an achievement in itself in just a few turns, and we're starting to grind down the Western powers just due to the fact that their offensive is not going forwards at all, and the Eastern is starting to take a lot of casualties there, so that's good. We're suffering a lot of losses with the Austrians, though, so it's not too great for us. Either way, the game moves forwards, so that is very good. Let's see. So Pavel Rannenkampf's forces here are practically destroyed. We have 2 army groups here. One is slightly injured, the other one, second army, seems to be fine, though first army is, I wouldn't say they're terribly wounded, but they've definitely suffered a lot of losses in terms of manpower. In that case, what I think I'll do here is that I won't tab to the Persian Gulf, but I'll get Army Group 2 to make a sweep, and I'll see whether or not we can drive them forwards into the town over here. And following them, I'm going to get a few of these corps to advance into where Pavel Rannenkampf's forces are right now, and the rest I'll keep here just stationary for now. I'm going to get the cavalry corps to advance on the offensive posture, and what this will do is that it'll gradually convert the military control, aka the amount of patrols and infrastructure, where the basic need of securing these regions. I'll get them to slowly control or contest the military control of Russia over here, covering our flanks, of course, as they go, and we'll get them to do that. Now, what we can do is that we can pluck down Max Hoffman, so that we'll pin down Alexander's army over there. And once I get our army to move here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Max von Helsing's army to make a stab at them there. So that should go. That should just gradually happen. Afterwards, they should be able to swing down to the south to take on some opposition there. Didn't expect to encounter the Russian armies over here, but this is a problem. So I'll get Third Army to relocate, and I guess we'll get these people to go back to this town over here. and I'm just going to get them to make a sturdy offensive at Limburg because I don't want to lose any of the strategic towns up there. So we'll do that over here. Some of our forces coming from the from the back ranks of the country are starting to arrive into the Serbian border. Again, our army corps over here have a similar purpose as the cavalry corps. They are just to gradually convert that military control over to ours inside this forested region. And in the meantime, we have a lot of these large army stacks present, or rather surrounding Belgrade. So I'm going to get them to make a stab into Belgrade shortly. And we've captured some supply wagons, so I'll just incorporate those into our forces, and we'll get von Frank and 6th Army along with 2nd Army all to make a stab, and I want them to just swarm this area and to take it either way. So we'll do that over there. Over here, let's get Army Corps to move forwards 1 tile. This big army is just more or less sitting here for now, and I think we'll let them continue doing that. Next turn we'll charge into the Serbian HQ here and see what we can do there. One thing that I want to do right now is that I just want to tab into the options here, and I'm going to turn back on the battle planner. One of the things that I've done here was that I turned this off for my own games just to speed things up, and in addition I've bumped up this setting right here. You have a fair amount of control over how you want to play your game, and with that said, one of the things about it is that you can choose the delay between when 2 forces clash, in the sense that I've originally this was set onto the furthest setting here, so units will clash where armies will do battle with each other immediately after entering a tile, but I've decided to put it onto the medium setting there, so when they enter 1 tile, they'll prepare for battle the rest a few days, and that's just to hopefully counter the problems that we've had with morale and all. And I guess 10th Army Corps here, yeah, they weren't destroyed, they just lost their leader, seeing as all of their units are still present, though they just lost their leader pretty much, so we'll let them do that. In the meantime, I think what we'll do here is that I'll get 1st Army to enter the building, into the recently captured fortification here, and I'll see whether or not whether or not they can perhaps recover some losses here. So those will be our movements for this turn, and I guess we'll just advance the next turn going from here.